Hello friends, today we are going to learn about Android splash screen, a special topic for Android 12. Let's learn all the things that you need to know about Android splash screen and why do you need it. Let us start with the purpose with an example. What does it actually do with your app and what purpose does it serve? The splash screen simply serves the purpose of splashing a logo with the animation and saying, "Hey buddy, welcome back," with certain logic that runs behind your application. The main and core important component of a splash screen is divided into four segments. Let us have an overview on that and we'll have a brief note on that while having a hands-on. The splash screen is fundamentally divided into four components. First one is the app icon, which is the vector image for your application, which is basically an app icon which is in a vector image format. I'll share the link in description. Please find the content guideline for creating a vector image. So consider this example. In this example, we have a Gmail logo where app icon is the symbol which represents the mail and the icon background is the background that encirculates around the icon M. So this forms the app icon's core image and the icon background. And third one is the foreground mask. Foreground mask is nothing. The encapsulated body of your app icon and the icon background should be masked with the foreground layer. So that is the foreground mask and the window background. So in the splash screen, you will be having a background which will be contrast or an color tint which is shade with the application icon that you are going to use. So that is the window background. So in order to use this component, you'll create a splash screen and encapsulate all these components into a single entity, which is called a splash screen. For any app that you create, it should follow a launch sequence, which fundamentally consists of three sequences. First one is the enter animation, which is completely controlled by the system, where the user don't have direct or indirect access to it. This happens when the app icon is clicked from the app launcher, followed by the splash screen. The splash screen consists of the core screen, which contains a component that we have discussed earlier. So this consists of the app's logo, followed by the animation and the foreground mask and all the components that we discussed earlier. And followed by that is the exit animation. The exit animation defines the behavior and logic for the exit of the splash screen while entering into the launcher activity. For any application, you will be having a launcher activity defined in your Android manifest. So when exiting from a splash screen to the launcher activity, it should have an animation which is optional. So by default, each and every screen will have a default animation. If you want to customize and set some behaviors, you can do that there, as well as there will be a logic behind it. It is also an optional thing. If you want to do or perform any certain logic, you can do that here. Now let's start implementing. Let's see what are the requirements for the implementation. First, you should have a compile SDK version of API level 31 and you should add this dependency to your app level Gradle file. So let's see how we can do that. So I have already created a sample project in which we are going to add the dependency to your app level Gradle file inside the body of dependency. So for now you have added. So click on sync. Now the Gradle is building the model. So it's successful. So then let's see what is the next step. Then you have to create a style file for your splash screen. So for which there are certain parts that you have to understand first. First one is a style parent theme. For any of the style tag that you define, it should have a parent. So for a splash screen, the parent is theme.splashscreen and you're going to define a name for it, which is theme.app.starting. Followed by this, you will be having certain properties for defining the core components of the splash screen. So let us see how we are going to implement that. So first we have to create a theme file. So first we have to create a theme file for the splash screen that you have to create under themes. There will be two versions of theme files. One is for the day, another one is for the night. So let us see how we are going to do that in the day section. So as earlier mentioned, we have to create the core skeleton structure for a theme that you have to define with the name theme.addCompat.starting, and which should have the parent in the name theme.splashScreen. So this forms your core of a splash screen. This creates the base of a screen, followed by which you have to create certain properties. First one is the icon that you're going to use. So for which you have to refer the property window splash screen animated icon, and you have to refer the asset that you have in your directory. I am going to include this map slash IC launcher is the asset that I have in my directory, so I have included it. Followed by which I'm going to add background for the splash screen. The background for the splash screen could be any color. I am choosing white, followed by which I am going to choose for how many seconds it's going to display the splash. So for which I need to refer next property is the duration property, which defines for how many seconds you have going to display your splash screen, for which I have to use this property Windows splash screen animation duration, for which I am going to mention the time in milliseconds. For example, if it is like 2 or 3 seconds, I am going to mention 3000 for 3 seconds, and I'm going to define the next property, which is for the exit animation, which is a post splash screen theme. So when you're exiting from your splash screen, you should define which theme it should adapt. So I'm going to refer the base theme.appcompat theme.decodeapp. It is the parent theme that we have. I'm going to choose that. So with these properties, this forms your splash screen. So this is what you see on the screen when you're clicking on the app icon from the app launcher. This forms the core screen for your splash screen, but along with it, you have so many properties with which you can customize it. But for now, this forms the core and essential requirement of a splash screen. And some people may have a doubt regarding what is this. This is nothing but your icon file, which is a vector file. So you should have a vector file which should be meaningful in a way that it describes your app's purpose. So in my case, I'm having a brain which is electronically fed with some neurons. So which is a theme which describes the brand of what I am trying to say. So it should have two layers. One is the background, another one is the foreground. Background is a white screen, and the foreground is the image which I want to brand. So this fundamentally forms your vector image. So you should include this in your theme in order to have an adaptive icon for the launch splash screen. With this, we are completing the design phase of a splash screen, and you should have these files under the map directory, or you may have a drawable folder. But if you're having a vector you should have that in map under different configurations to have an adaptive configuration while launching. So that's it for the design. Let us proceed with the next step. Next step is defining your theme in your manifest. So once you have defined the theme in your manifest file, the next step that you have to do is referring your splash screen from your launcher activity. So let's see how we can do that. So once you have completed configuring the splash screen into your manifest, you have to configure the splash screen to your launcher activity, for which you have to write a few lines of code. First one is handling the splash screen transition, and by referring the object that we have created, we are going to set and condition to true, which is keep on screen condition. This is required when you are migrating an existing custom activity to the splash screen that you have created. So let's see how we can. So first thing is you have to create the splash screen object. So let us initialize the object for the splash screen. So that will be object splash screen. So you have to call the method install splash screen. This will return the object for the splash screen. You have to do this before the place where you are setting your content view, because this is called before your main activity is being launched. So this should be declared and defined before the place where you are setting your content view. And once it is created, you can perform operations on it. The operation that we are going to perform is setting the screen on condition. So let us see how you are going to do that. So you have to set the method to true by calling the method directly. So this will keep your screen alive when transition from the splash screen to main activity. So this is not required actually, this is optional, because if you are migrating, this would require, or else it is not required. So this property is not required. If you still you want to use it, you can set it to false, or else you can remove this. So let us see what is the output. So let us see what is the output by launching the app from the launcher screen. So this flashes the screen that we have created, and it by default it redirects to the launcher activity. So now we have successfully created the splash screen for our application by launching it from the launcher icon, and we have seen the output. So this basically redirects it to the launcher activity that we have mentioned in the manifest. So let us proceed with the animation behavior. The animation behavior of a splash screen is basically divided based on the launch sequence of a splash. So which is basically the enter animation followed by the splash screen and the exit animation. So in these sequences we learn how we are going to enter into the splash and how we are going to exit it with an animation based on certain logic performed on a splash screen. Let us learn briefly about the animation behavior for a splash screen in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video and press the bell icon for getting notified for my future videos.